Stugotz here. Don't you wish you were at the post office right now? Teasing. Me neither. Running a business or keeping up with your schedule takes a lot, and sometimes there just aren't enough hours in the day. You've got more important things to do. Of course you do. That's why you need Stamps.com. Anything you could do at the post office, you could do at Stamps.com. I love them. Their on-demand postage means you could skip that trip to the post office. Stamps.com brings all the services of the U.S. Postal Service right to your computer. Whether you're a small office sending invoices, an online seller shipping out products, or even a warehouse sending thousands of packages a day, Stamps.com can handle it all with ease. And time isn't the only thing you'll be saving. With Stamps.com, you can get 5 cents off every first-class stamp and up to 40% off shipping rates. Right now, our listeners get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the home page, and type in Stu. That's Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the home page and type in Stu. That's Stamps.com. Use code Stu. The Dan Le Batard with Stugotz Show podcast is presented by Capital One. This is Banking Reimagined.
Perfectionist Mike. Stugotz Perfectionist Mike just dropped his head into his hands because we just played the show open. Forgive us. Geez. We're a stumbling mess. Chris Mortensen's going to join us in about 90 seconds. Go ahead, Stugotz.
All right, Mike, calm down, man. I mean, crazy time. We're quarantined, man. I mean, what's the matter with you? ESPN Radio is presented. There's a lot going on in the NFL. My God. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Progressive's Home Quote Explorer gives you multiple quote options so you can pick what's right for you. See for yourself today at Progressive.com. Chris Mortensen, our friend, going to join us here in just a second on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. NCAA President Mark Emmert has took to citing Rudy Gobert's positive test for the coronavirus as the reason why the NCAA basketball tournament was canceled, calling it, quote, an exclamation point. The Jaguars have agreed to trade defensive end Calais Campbell to the Ravens for a 5th-round pick in the upcoming NFL draft. Sneaky good move there by the Ravens. And finally, researchers found that roughly 1 in every 10,000 chickens, oh boy, in Gyrandromorphorus, meaning they hatch half male and half female. Did I say that right, Mike?
I don't know. Just keep it moving.
All right, Wendy's has breakfast now. Did I say that right?
Yes.
We're talking fresh cracked eggs on every breakfast sandwich. Yep, it's going to be America's favorite breakfast. Download the Wendy's app for deals on your new favorite breakfast. Yep, for this. See you at Wendy's in the morning, available at participating U.S. Wendy's. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
We're an hour in, and Mike Ryan is like Jack and the Outsider, drinking straight from the Jack Daniels bottle. Chris Mortensen joins us now on ESPN Radio. We've got 10 years of labor peace. Thank you, Mort, as always, for coming by here and bringing your credibility to a situation that doesn't have any credibility in this 10-1 slot Eastern. But can you help us understand what happened here with this close vote? This close vote, did NFL owners successfully divide the players between the haves and the have-nots? Did the short-sighted just vote for 10 years of labor peace and kind of do something that a lot of the rich guys were saying they shouldn't do?
I think after the experience in 2011 during the lockout, even though many of these players who are in the league today were not part of that, I think that's when the owners shoved a deal down the throat and divided the players. If you remember, the players actually got together a so-called war chest of money, and the union did too, only to determine that if you actually did the math, it wasn't going to work unless you were willing to sit out a lengthy amount of time. I think the reason the vote was so close was simple: 17 games. And there were players who just on principle alone, no matter how good this deal is, and there's a lot of nice ornaments in this deal for the players, and they're just not decorative. There is real money there, and maybe they'll create a middle class, which they currently lack in the NFL. But when you had the voices like J.J. Watt and Aaron Rodgers speak out right away, Richard Sherman, big name guys who certainly have respect. I know Stugotz is big with J.J. Watt. So I think a lot of those players, I think there were players who immediately said, well, if they're voting no, I'm voting no, which is why you heard that scramble like, well, wait a minute, can we change it, the vote? And the union's executive board said no. So I don't think they divided the players. I think, but if you actually look at this deal, the owners wanted this deal and gave, I think, more than they normally would give, more than they would give next year, because they want to get the TV media rights deal done now. Because this coming fall, of course, we don't know what the coronavirus, COVID-19, is going to do to any type of negotiation. But certainly at the time the owners voted for it, there were things they didn't like about this deal, but they knew they wanted to get the media and the TV rights done, because they're going to kill it with the TV deals and the streaming rights deal. And for them to do it, they needed the CBA. So they gave players things that I don't think they would have given them next year.
Mort, how is it? Do you have an explanation for how 500 of the current players in the NFL did not vote on the proposed CBA? That has to infuriate DeMaurice Smith and most of the players, no?
Can you explain to me why 40% of Americans didn't vote in the last election when President Trump was elected our president?
No, I can't.
Okay, so listen, I don't know why some players may just, ignore emails or just don't feel like their vote counts. And I know a lot of people that when they vote for elections, whether primary elections or general elections, that they don't vote because they don't feel their vote counts. It makes no sense to me, because the union and D. Smith, the head of the union, they have worked really hard for 10 months. D. Smith and other people with his executives, they visited all 32 teams during the season, and sometimes on multiple occasions, to explain the details of this deal and how important it was for them to have a voice. And if you read D. Smith's letter, and you can read it on Twitter, he never recommended a yes or no vote on this deal. So I think that that's just the players. If a player doesn't like the deal, they'll have themselves to blame. But I got a feeling that they're going to like this deal, just like in 2011, we thought the owners really smashed the players in that deal. And as it turns out, as the last 5 years have gone on, players have done quite well. I also have one theory before I stop. One theory is, I think the people who are in the upper class of NFL players making money, they're the ones who don't like this deal, even though they're going to get a lot of money.
Can you explain to us, Mort, what your personal thoughts are on the sheer volume of NFL news and money being thrown around, and how tone deaf it feels, given everything else going on in America, the world, and in sports?
Yeah, listen, we've behind the scenes we've had this tone deaf, and optics is the other word that people use, and I'm kind of like, I've gone both ways on it, but here's what I think. Tell me when this is all going to end. Tell me when the coronavirus COVID-19 threat is going to end. One thing you can do is, through technology and telephones, you can strike up a deal. That's how it's done, usually. There's some issues about taking the physical. That's usually for second-tier and third-tier guys. I think that most of the public generally, and this goes back to even when players are making $300,000 a year, when the man on the street, which is a cliche, thought they were being overpaid, they're going to have the same reaction in this, that it's tone deaf to the guy who's not making any money, or working for $15 an hour. Otherwise, you tell me when it's going to end and what type of chaos is going to ensue. The money is there. Players who have been waiting, and it's the players who want this done, players who have this anxiety about where they're going to live, how much money they're going to be paid, their next team, our families that we're going to move, they'd like to have a little bit more of a clear answer, take the next step in the process, and that's why we are proceeding as of today.
Mort, how do you feel about Ryan Tannehill, $91 million guaranteed, $118 million overall? Is he worth that kind of money?
You're worth whatever you can get, just like you, Stugotz. Come on, give me a break. I mean, here's the thing about it. If you look at the contract, technically they can get out of it after 2 years. These contracts that we report in the media, they're technically accurate, but if you go to the details, you can see that some of these players, whether it be Ryan Tannehill or even Jared Goff or other guys, you can see that the teams actually have opt-outs, Jimmy Garoppolo being one, where they can kind of walk away from the deal after a couple of years. And, yeah, they paid a lot of money in the first 2 or 3 years, but they can get out of it. So Ryan Tannehill played great football for 7 games. They like him. They know him. He's young. And so, therefore, on the surface it looks like a big deal, but it's, to be honest with you, he's going to be under market, most quarterbacks, when the quarterback market finally settles.
More, what do you make of the chatter that the extra games might be sort of bundled together in some sort of neutral site television package for a streaming giant?
I've heard it. I would probably turn the question around to you and ask you what do you feel? It doesn't change what I do. How do you watch games? How do you feel about it?
You need to stop asking us questions about how Trump got elected, when the virus is going to end. We ask you the questions.
I mean, what I'm worth.
Expert. You answer them. Why do you keep throwing questions back at us?
Let me rephrase.
Because I think you're a Joe fan. I'll exclude Dan. I think we have Joe fans there because personally, I don't care. Now I will say this: I didn't like a 17-game schedule. I'll give you my opinion. I didn't like a 17-game schedule, but I will tell you this. I think there were owners itching to force an 18-game schedule next year. So on 17-game, how do you do we've heard talk that, hey, 1 year, the one conference will have the normal 8-game home schedule, and the next year the other conference will have a 9-game schedule, and vice versa. I don't know how it works. We know they're going to be independent sites. They're already independent sites, neutral sites that are being played on. And, I don't like the number. I know how tough it is on players, especially guys who are in the trenches, to just be ready to play by Sunday each week because it takes a long recovery. But, if you do the math, and I've heard some people do the math, over an average player's career lifetime, it's 4 more games than they normally would play.
Mort, thanks for being on with us. We always appreciate the insight. We could have done without all the questions. Thank you, sir.
Talk to you guys.
We have you on to fill the time.
We've got some really credible Tom Brady reporting coming up next.
If you missed any of our interviews, check them out on demand in the Dan Le Batard Show podcast, brought to you by Capital One. With Capital One, you can open a new checking or savings account with no fees or minimums. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Approval required. Capital One NA, member FDIC. Dan, it is time for Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless.
I am told that despite earlier disasters trying to connect Chris Cody to our radio show, if you're not familiar with how we're doing this today, Stugotz is at his home, me and Mike are at my home, and the shipping container filled with frightened refugees is scattered all over the place, calling in occasionally. But I'd like to go to Billy, who's been a voice of soothing somehow, even though he is a fear-soaked being. He is perpetually afraid of everything, and Billy says that we're going to be all right because of something that he watched this weekend that wasn't exactly sports but felt like sports. What did you find soothing this weekend, Billy?
Hey, guys, it's Billy. I watched some marbles race in sand online, and I think we're going to be fine.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Billy. I appreciate all your efforts.
I feel better.
It was kind of like horse racing and car racing, but it was marbles on sand. And I said, you know what? I think I can watch anything race. We'll be good.
And who won? Which marble ended up winning?
Oh, man. I think it was the blue one, but it may have been the red one. There was like this tight moment like towards the end because there was lots of different lanes. That's the thing about marble racing on sand, apparently. It's not just one path like NASCAR. There's a bunch of different ways that they can go, and there's things that they can kind of hop over. They have different like channels and canals that they can go around. So like everything has 2 or 3 different ways that they can go. It's not just the one path. So You see the leader. He's going down this one path, the red marble, purple marble, whatever marble it was, right? And he's going down this path, and you're like, wow, this marble has like an 8 or 9 marble length lead on the other marbles, right? And then all of a sudden, another one hops over some hill of sand somehow, pops back in, goes around the other corner, boom, overtakes the first marble. Then you have a new marble leader. It's incredible. I don't know how we aren't all watching marble racings on sand.
I watched it. A huge choke job by the sky blue marble.
That's what I'm saying. You think that the marble has the lead and he's going to win, or she, I guess I should say, because I don't know the gender of the marble. But you think that the marble's going to win, right? And then all of a sudden another marble pops out of nowhere, and then another marble that's like an 8th place pops over. And Dan, I don't know if you saw this, Dan, you with me? I don't know if you saw this. There's like a split screen where you're looking at the leader or the back of the pack of the marbles. You know, none of those marbles are going to catch up, obviously. But for whatever reason, whoever's broadcasting these marble races, there's a split screen where you have like a little picture-in-picture type. Have you not seen the marble races yet?
I have seen a video making its way around the internet. I didn't realize they had multiple camera shots.
Oh, how can you only have one camera shot of marble races, Dan? Come on.
I want to ask you something. Thank you, Billy, for your contributions. Mina Kimes is going to be here in about 10 minutes. But you've seen that Tom Brady is saying, Stugotz, that nobody knows anything, that the reporters are just making things up, that there are very few people with information. But I do believe that we got the most credible piece of Tom Brady reporting that we've seen this weekend when Chris Sims reported that the San Francisco 49ers were Tom Brady's first choice, but the San Francisco 49ers opted to not go with Tom Brady. And the reason I believe that to be credible reporting is because he's got something that Mort and Adam Schefter do not have. He's got tattooed on his skin the initials of Kyle Shanahan, who he went to college with, and they are boys. And so I'm going to assume any 49ers information that he reports is 100% accurate. I'm just going to assume it. And I told you, Stugotz, it would have been fascinating for Tom Brady to end up in San Francisco for a lot of different reasons. And it made a lot of sense for that to be his first choice. It also isn't hard to understand why it is the 49ers wouldn't saddle themselves to a quarterback who's going to be 43 years old.
No, they have a young quarterback who, at times played well and got them to within a quarter of winning the Super Bowl. So no 49ers for Brady. And I agree with you on your assessment of Chris Sims. That is very good analysis there. No 49ers for Brady. No Titans for Brady. The Bucs have become the betting favorite to land Tom Brady. And I was thinking about something you said earlier in the show. That is going to be weird. To end your career with San Francisco, that's one thing. To go to Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, and Vrabel, a guy you used to play with at Tennessee, a team who made it to the championship game last year, that's another thing. But you're going to end your career with Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Like, that's where it's going to end? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Well, that doesn't feel right to me.
You just changed your mind from like an hour ago when I was asking you, why would you go to a place that's not win now? But Bruce Arians is a good quarterback coach. Like, he devises good things around his quarterbacks. I'm not
Bill
making
Belichick's
the argument.
just a good coach. I mean,
yeah, fair enough. Mina Kimes next.
That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less, only at Walmart. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Mina Kimes going to join us in just a second here on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Cowboys have tagged quarterback Dak Prescott. The Bengals have tagged wide receiver A.J. Green. The Jaguars have agreed to trade defensive end Calais Campbell to the Ravens for a 5th-round pick in the upcoming NFL Draft. And finally, the human body contains about 0.2 milligrams of gold, mostly in our blood. Speaking of which, the Earth is running low of the metal. There's less than 15 years of easily mineable gold left on the planet. Here's the SelectQuote difference. Most companies give you one option, one policy, one rate, but SelectQuote shops and could get you up to 10 options from highly rated life insurance companies for a free personalized quote. Call 800-780-1010 or go to SelectQuote.com today. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in to SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Weirdly, as sports shut down all over America, our show has been extra sportsy today. Bear with us as we try to find our footing here over the next couple of days because we're doing the show in an unusual way. Me and Mike are at my home quarantined. Stugotz is at his home with his dog Finnegan, and Mina Kimes joins us now with her dog Lenny. So we want to talk some football with Mina. The DeAndre Hopkins news or rumors that he might be traded, where's that coming from?
You know, there's always been a little bit of smoke around him. I think it kind of dates back to the McNair days and the protests. As you remember, he was kind of outspoken about not being happy with how things were being handled there. But because he's so good and obviously had signed a giant long-term extension, nobody really made anything of it. This seems like that. I can't be. The Texans are ostensibly. Oh, Lenny just walked in he just opened the door on his own.
Not interested in Lenny's meandering. Give us the DeAndre.
I didn't know he could do that.
Not interested.
I'm so proud of him. Anyway, I think the reason it never made any sense is because Houston against the all odds, I suppose, they contend every year. They're the team you forget made the playoffs and actually wins games sometimes. So it doesn't really make any sense. It only makes sense, I think, in the context of that smoke and perhaps some dissatisfaction on his part. Because from a team perspective, it doesn't make any sense.
Mina, what's the move here, either over the weekend or today? And there's been a lot of them. What's the move here that surprised you the most?
Well, I didn't love the Tannehill deal, but that didn't surprise me. The Calais Campbell trade was dumb for the Jaguars, but they're in full teardown mode. I think what I've found fascinating is a lack of a market for Tom Brady. And I suppose, Dan, we've been on Highly Questionable, and every day we have to answer a different question about a new team being linked to Brady. And every day I've said, I don't know why this team would want Tom Brady, right? And then the Patriots fans get really upset, but it's like cognitive dissonance, because on one hand, they're like, how dare you insult Tom Brady? Wow, that was a really bad New England accent. How dare you?
What is that?
I don't know what that's a foreign
I was trying to do like a Boston.
That's not even Boston, though. That's another country you just did.
He's a wicked good.
No, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. You're confident.
There you go. So the Pats fans are like, how dare you? That was getting closer, I think.
Liam Neeson and taken.
That was taken.
How dare you insult the Tom Brady?
Oh, my God. How is it that you've gotten progressively worse at this impersonation? You were Liam Neeson last time, and now you're just a full-on Brit.
I don't know. So anyways, on one hand, they're upset with you for insulting Tom Brady, but on the other hand, they didn't want him to leave. But most of the teams being linked with him really made no sense for him. And so I think it's been interesting to see his market so rapidly dry up, right? Because you lost Tennessee. San Francisco went off the board. Not only did you lose Tennessee, you got Diana Rossini reporting they were never interested. It was only some light conversation at most. And we are, like, he's running out of options. Like, his free agency has rapidly turned into a party of one.
How does Derrick Henry feel seeing what Ryan Tannehill just signed for as he got franchised? And I've seen you say Tannehill was really good last year. We make fun of him for not throwing during the playoffs very much, but he was good in play action, not in play action. He was good against pressure. He was good on the long ball. He was good at everything last year.
Yeah. He was wicked good. Oh, God.
Oh, for the love of God.
That was a defeated Patriots fan, having seen them beat them in the playoffs, commenting on how good he was. One thing that's perplexing to me is I've seen some people say, well, Derrick Henry carried Tannehill this season, and now Tannehill's getting paid and he's not. Well, we've seen Derrick Henry with other quarterbacks. How good was this team before Ryan Tannehill? Because you got the control test, guys, right? Like, we saw the impact that he was an excellent quarterback, has on this team. The reason I didn't like the deal for Tannehill, or I guess I was a little bit perplexed by it, was it's basically a 3-year deal. It's a 2-year deal, but the 3rd year kicks in the 2nd year, and it would be cost prohibitive to cut him. So it's a 3-year deal. They really could have just franchise tagged him, which is what I would have done. I wouldn't have tagged Henry. For Henry's perspective, I guess, look, if you're going to pay a running back, pay him a lot of money for 1 year. That's what I'll say. So I don't hate it for Tennessee from that point of view. But, I'm firmly against giving running backs long, rich, multi-year contract extensions.
What do you think Hopkins would fetch at this point, if indeed he were traded?
Oh, my goodness. The baseline is, I would say, at least a first and another high pick. I mean, he's one of the 3 best wide receivers in the NFL.
I was surprised that Calais Campbell, I know that a 5th-round pick has value in the NFL, but I was surprised by everything that happened there, that Jacksonville couldn't get more for Calais Campbell, who sometimes feels unblockable to me.
Yeah, he's continued to be dominant, even though that defense totally fell apart. I mean, Jacksonville seems to be in total rebuild mode. By the way, the Nick Foles contract is like the closest thing you have in common to the Tannehill deal, and you can see how badly, like, if you bet wrong on the guy who was good for 1 or maybe 2 seasons in Foles' case, and it was really just postseasons, things go south really, really quickly. We saw how quickly that Super Bowl caliber defense that carried Bortles, last guy they bet wrong on, all the way to the AFC Championship, how quickly that falls apart. And I think you've seen that in Jacksonville. Like, they are in tear down rebuild mode at this point. I can't believe they couldn't get more for him personally, but this is why good teams like Baltimore stay good and teams like Jacksonville stay bad.
Mina, are you comfortable with the NFL going about its normal business while all this is going on, while I'm doing a show in my office, Dan and Mike are in his apartment in South Beach, everyone's quarantined, staying home? Are you the NFL just announced the draft will go on as scheduled, no crowds, and they're obviously going on moving forward with their season with no pauses. Are you surprised by that, turned off by it?
I think it's fine. I saw some tweets criticizing, like, wow, dare free agency continue, the optics of it. And I was kind of confused by that, right? Like, this isn't about, like, the big money contracts. I don't think anyone's this feels like a bit of a straw man to me. Like, I don't think anyone is actually upset by that now. People are upset by, like, other people defying public health guidelines. And as long as the NFL doesn't do that, it doesn't bother me that they're going to hold the draft remotely or proceed with free agency. I mean, do you guys disagree?
I do not disagree with you, but I do see that a lot of people appear to be agitated by it, but it also does feel like what you're saying is straw man. I don't think that a lot of people who are in suffering, or all these people who are complaining about, hey, pay the little people at the arenas, the billionaires should be doing it instead of people like Zion Williamson, I don't feel like they're actually mad. I feel like they just see a lot of money changing hands, and their life has been turned upside down, so why isn't everybody's?
Well, and by the way, and look, a lot of the last week or so has reminded me of, back in 2008, I was covering the financial crisis. And as much as we're also worried about public health right now and actually taking this thing seriously from that perspective, there's this simultaneous concern about these businesses, right? Because there's going to be stimulus, there's going to need to be for some industries in particular. As much as major American industries can proceed normally and continue to make money, that's good for everyone, okay? It's not like, if we can stop aspects of this economy from grinding to a halt, that's a positive thing for those little people and for everyone else. So I am fully on board with business as usual, as long as it doesn't endanger people.
Does Tom Brady to the Dolphins or the Bucks make any sense to you whatsoever?
Oh my God, I love this so much. Okay, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I have really enjoyed this Tom Brady story over the last few days, right? Because when he first started testing free agency or dipping his toe into the water with like the Hulu ad and all of that, it felt to me, and I think I said this on one of our shows, Dan, like it seemed like a guy who had just gotten out of a relationship for like 20 years, it is 20 years in his case, and was, super excited to be single, like learning about all the new apps out there to date, and he's texting all of his bros like Drew Brees. He's like, hey, we're finally doing this, right? And Brees is like, nah, man, I got a good thing. You're out, go to the clubs. And then he goes out, and it's like really bleak. Anyone who's ever been like in a relationship for a long time and then goes out for the first time and they realize, oh wait, this wasn't what I thought at all. This is really awful. And he goes out and he wakes up and he rolls over and it's the Bucks. That's where we are right now with Tom Brady, and I just love it so much. I think it's so funny.
Today is for doing, and today we acknowledge the new collective bargaining agreement. We do. The National Football League Players Association held their full member vote and agreed to the NFL's proposed CBA in a close vote, where the yeses defeated the noes by 60. It was written here as the A's defeated the nays by 60. Who writes like that, Roy? Fine.
$2.
All right. Who writes like that, though, Dan? Seriously, you don't even write like that. A's and nays. What does that mean? With that, the NFL regular season will expand to 17 games as early as the 2021 season and expanded playoff field from 12 to 14 teams as soon as this coming season. Higher minimum salaries, improvements to benefits for current and retired players, expanded rosters and practice squads, and changes to the drug and discipline policies going into effect this coming season. The players' share in the league's revenue goes up from 47% to 48% in 2021 and to at least 48.5% when the league officially starts its 17-game season. The deal runs through 2030. Listen, all I care about is we have football uninterrupted for the next decade. Today is for doing, and it's brought to you by the Home Depot with everything you need to do projects smarter, faster, and easier. Welcome to today's Home Depot, how doers get more done.
We request your patience and your mocking as we try to find our footing over the course of the week, doing the show in a weird way. Me and Mike are at my place. Stugotz is at his place, and a tweeter writes in toward Mina Kimes.
Oh, no.
Why does Mina Kimes' Boston accent sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger? Now, speaking of Schwarzenegger, I thought Ed Orgeron's PSA was the best I'd seen on the coronavirus, but Schwarzenegger in his kitchen with his pony whiskey and his donkey Lulu, that was some quality PSAing. Did you watch... Mina, did you watch any Westworld last night?
Yes, sir. I was driving on the pike, then I banged the Yui to turn around and watch my shows.
Oh, God,
hand me the clicker.
It's so bad. It's profoundly bad. It's the worst impersonation I've ever heard of anybody.
Thank you so much. I've always wanted to be the worst at something.
All right, Stugotz, you got me. Your Christopher Walken is indeed worse than her Boston
bring it back.
accent.
Stu, let me hear the Christopher Walken.
I was just trying to help Mina out there. That's all I was trying to do.
Come on. Come on.
The watch. It's the watch.
Oh, wicked pisser. Can I say that?
I gave up. A little late to be asking that. I gave up on Westworld after like 7 or 8 episodes. It was too confusing.
Okay. Marshawn Lynch is in it now. So, okay, I'll give you the 15-second recap, not in a normal accent. Basically, season 2, which I read many recaps and watched many videos of to try to remember what happened. I forgot all of it. It becomes rapidly clear that we don't know who's a human and who's a robot, and the whole park was built so that some rich guys could try to figure out immortality, not that far off from the truth, yada, yada, yada. Season 3, which debuted last night, takes place in the real world, or does it? That's my theory, that this whole... Now it's in the real world. It's very Blade Runner, and a couple of the hosts, the robots, escaped. But I'm on to them now, and I'm thinking maybe the real world is a simulation, and maybe we've been in a simulation all along.
Mina, did the show... obviously, it didn't lose you in the second season. I really liked the first... I really like the show the first season.
Please stop.
I thought Ed Harris was excellent in it, but... I gave the second season a few episodes, and it just wasn't hitting with me. And I just wish that we went back to this whole Westworld, its namesake. I lost interest. Should I get back into it? Did the second season ever pick up, or is this a lost cause?
Well, I would say the standards for all binge watching are pretty low right now. So, by the way, Dan, Ozark comes back March 27. Weekly recap, you and me? Huh?
I'm looking forward to the return. Jason Bateman's making some really good decisions.
Oh, love Jason Bateman. I love Ozark. I'm excited for that one to come back. But to answer your question, Mike, I didn't understand what was happening 99% of the time in season 2, and I still kind of enjoyed it anyways. I can't really explain that. I would say you should get back on it for this season, because this season does feel a little bit more straightforward, kind of like a futuristic show. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff. Like, you guys watch Black Mirror? This season feels a little bit like Black Mirror. There's a lot of sort of playing with ideas that feel sort of realistic now. Like, for example, there's an Uber for crime concept where Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad is a new character this season. He is ostensibly a human, and every night, and this is how he meets up with Marshawn Lynch, he signs on to like a decentralized blockchain-driven app where criminals can just get together and commit small, like petty crimes together and get paid using probably Bitcoin or something. It's pretty interesting.
If Westworld is too complicated for you and Pablo Torre, like Stugotz, how did you experience Westworld?
I watched 3 episodes. If I'm confused that early into a series, I stop watching you. That's how it works.
That is, you cut the cord clean to make time for other things. Yeah, I think Stugotz has that right, Mina. I think you're chasing something there that needs to be let go of. I think that all of it's too confusing. We got to get out of here. Dominique Foxworth is going to join us next. Thank you, Mina, for making the time.
Bye.
Oh, for the love of God, it's so bad. It's unspeakably bad. I don't understand why you would keep going to something that's
Get
that
lost,
bad.
shout ahead.
Dominique Foxworth joins us next.
See you on the Packy.